Thank you. Adoption of the agenda for the November 15th meeting. Is there any objection or any comments? I want to give you enough time to think about it until I find a pen. Okay, so obviously that's fine. With a minute, anybody have any comments on the minutes from the October meeting?
Well,
Beautiful.
since I wasn't at the meeting, no comment.
Well, I wasn't, I don't have one either. So let's get into the items.
Well, don't we need to vote?
Oh, you want to vote on those? All right, what's the vote on approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting?
You need a motion, don't you?
Yes. Okay, I move to approve the land use meeting minutes for October 18th, 2021.
I second them. I second them.
Who was that? Was that Gwendolyn?
Gwen.
Thanks, Gwen. Okay. Moving.
So we have discussions now? Is there any other discussions? Okay, let's vote. All those who approve the minutes for October the 18th, the October 18th meeting, raise their hand. I'll say aye. 1, 2.
Well, hang on. Let me go down the list. Okay, James Brown,
Abstain.
Gwendolyn,
I approve. What is it? What am I saying?
oh, for the October meeting minutes.
Yes, I vote approval.
Okay, Danica Middleton abstains. Miguel,
Yes, I was there.
Mary Penniman's not here. Tom Riley,
I approve.
Karen,
I abstain.
and Jim Stein's not here either. Okay, 3 yeses and 3 abstains.
Okay,
So Linda Gravani, if you can hear me, what do we do if it's kind of a tie? 3 abstain, 3
Well,
yeses.
It's
We
okay.
weren't at the meeting.
It's okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay, but you need to find out who actually is on the committee.
what, the old committee would be Alan and myself, Karen, and Gwen.
Okay, you have Jim Stein's name on there. Is he not here? You didn't do a roll call of those that are on your committee.
Well, I didn't do a roll call because I haven't got that far in life.
Okay,
Okay. Well, okay. So Tom, hang on. So who's on your committee? Alan, Karen, you?
Gwen, myself, and I think maybe Mary.
And Jim
Gwen.
Stein.
Gwen is
And Jim.
also on the committee.
I mentioned her.
He did. He did. So James, you're not on the committee.
No,
Okay. Okay. So I'll cross James off my list.
well.
And then, am
Wait a
I on the committee? Because I don't think I was at that meeting where you voted in for this year.
The list that you have on the agenda for people who want to be voting members effective at this meeting going forth. The names that I gave you were for people who were on the old committee that will cease to exist in a half hour.
Okay. So that's the vote I need to take is the old committee right now.
Correct.
Okay. So sorry. I'm going to start over. Alan,
Yes.
Karen.
I was not at the meeting, which means I cannot vote.
Okay. No problem. Tom,
Yes.
Gwen.
Yes.
Okay, Mary and Jim are not here. Okay, 3 yeses, so it's 3-1. Okay, perfect. Great, got that. Okay, we can move on now.
Okay. All right. Basically tonight, tonight's meeting is just to update the world as to where we are with the projects that we are aware of that exist here in Lake Balboa. There's nothing to vote on. There's nothing to do beyond that, except to just make everybody aware of it so they have time to think about what they want to do when we do decide to vote on it. Okay,
Okay, hang on, Tom. Are you going to do number 3, approval of the minutes for September?
oh, yeah, fine.
Didn't we do that?
No,
I thought-
no, we did the October.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. All right, so then I move to approve the September 2021 land use meeting minutes.
September, I thought we approved that.
Wait, how come, well, how come it's on the agenda if you, oh, I'm looking at the minutes. I'm so sorry, you guys. But you still have it on here, though.
I
Never
have,
mind, never mind, never mind, never mind. Okay. Me
just
bad.
take a minute to read it.
Go ahead.
Mary,
Read
well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
may that be your biggest
Hi,
problem
Mary.
here.
Go ahead.
Back to me?
Mhm.
Oh, thank God, it's my ego. As I said, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date with what we know to date, the different projects that are happening in Lake Balboa. The 16061 Van Owen, we have already voted on that, told them we weren't interested in a full line license for spirits, beer and wine. We approved the beer and the wine because they have been good for the community in Lake Balboa for the last 10 years or more. But the last thing we need is another beer, wine, and liquor license. We have 45 that either touch or part of Lake Balboa. Adding any more, there's no need for it. Everybody in Lake Balboa can get to a liquor store or a beer and wine store within a half a mile, no matter where you live. And adding more serves no purpose, and it cuts into the profit of the business community that's here already. So not only are they going to be losing money, it's not going to do the community any good by adding any more. So that's why we have opposed it for 2 or 3 accounts. This particular one in 16061 is discussing with the police department to get the police department approval, and the police department has not given the approval because the 2 of them are negotiating Articles 3 and 4, which is how many, you have to have a full-time security guard working 24 hours a day or whatever. And I don't remember what the other one is. Until they get past the police department, there's nothing for us to do. And that's why they have not contacted us officially. They have made it known. Deanna, Jonah knows about, they contacted Jonah, and I'm sure Jonah explained it to you. But until they come and make a presentation, there's not really much to worry about or discuss. Any questions, thoughts, feelings, concerns? Okay. 17630 Sherman Way. That has been approved by planning. They, at this point, have not gone anyplace. They're trying to get their permits for building and safety. In talking to the developer, he explained that he was not sure when they were going to be interested in starting to develop it, knocking down the garage and putting up the building. And he says it's going to take about 6 months for him to get all the necessary permits. So we may not hear, I'll stay in touch with him, but it appears that nothing is going to happen for 6 months. And it would appear it's going to take him at least 2 years to knock everything down and rebuild or build the apartment complex. I don't know if anyone has a chance to go down the back alley where the building is. The alley itself, going from west to east, halfway across, is just horrible, which I'm sure they'll fix. But one of the things that would concern us is that alley leads into private property, into a street with residential homes. And I'm not sure how legal that may or may not be. You can't downsize, you can't force traffic into streets that are not on the same level. And obviously, if it's got a Sherman Way address, then it's a highway. Residential streets are not highways. So that might be a potential way of addressing the situation. And if we want to fight it, that might be a way of fighting it. We did that on Andersol, and it worked out very well. He has the support of the city the whole way. Any questions on that?
So we're just waiting for, we're in a no action mode now. We're waiting for more information, more something to be brought before us. What's the next step?
I have to call planning and find out exactly where we are. The developer told me he needs more permits. I was told by planning that they had approved the project, or they could approve the project. They don't have to have a public hearing. They don't have to go through the normal steps, because the place is basically allowed to do what they want to do, because everything on Sherman Way east going to White Oak are all apartment buildings. So by right, they should have the ability to put up the apartment buildings. But potentially they could run into a problem because they can't come off Sherman Way because it's a highway and there's too much traffic. So the city doesn't want people trying to get off the highway into the complex and vice versa. And on the other hand, if we really want to fight the whole thing, we might be able to do it because we're going from a Sherman Way address, which is a highway, through an alley down into a residential section.
So, Tom,
Yes,
are they going to have to, if they want the people to be able to exit from that apartment building in the back way that takes you through a Nadia or whichever one of those, Joaco, whichever street it takes you on to,
right.
do they have to bring that before us or the neighborhood? Or do we just turn around and say, how did that happen?
I think we as a community and as a neighborhood could fight with them and say, you cannot go.
But what I'm trying to find out is, are they going to bring it before us for us to fight on it? Or are we just going to turn around and say, oh shit, they were supposed to have told us about it? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are we waiting for their plans to know what's happening, or is it just going to get built?
we initially had planned to have a community meeting with it. But planning told us that by right, they can build the complex. But that doesn't mean that we, as a community, can't fight them on the direction of.
Okay, but Tom, at what point are we aware of something that says we fight something? Because today is not the day. So I'm just trying to figure out, you're saying that they can legally do what they want because it's a apartment street. But if they choose to have an exit out the back way into the neighborhood, do they have to bring it to the community prior to approving it or not? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
My guess is yes, and I'll find out.
Okay, that's all I'm trying to figure out.
What we want them to do as a community, they can build the complex, that's fine, but egress and egress has to be on White Oak.
Got
Not,
it. Got it.
not into the community. And that's pretty standard and something planning has supported us in the past with some different projects.
I'm just trying to figure out if they're gonna tell us. That's what I'm, that's
Well,
what
I-
I'm trying to figure out.
I-
For
I-
us to say that's not okay.
we should tell them that we're not opposed, we should tell planning, we don't care about the developer. We should tell planning that we have strong objections to dumping
Okay,
traffic in the residential.
are we telling them that now or are we waiting till some point in the future? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, what we will do is at our meeting in December, we will bring up the project and vote on the project. So it's my fault
Okay.
for not bringing it up before, but we can bring it up in December. Nothing's gonna happen for a number of months. So let's bring it up. Let's go to the planning and tell them what we want.
Okay,
Is the world in favor of that?
Mhm.
to have it in December, yes.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts, feelings, emotions?
Tom, I have a quick question. So they're gonna, if it's zoned right now, for that automobile repair shop, they're gonna have to change the zoning, correct?
No, the auto shop, I believe, is grandfathered in.
Okay,
Master plan calls for multifamily units. So they just, that's why there's no public hearing, as I understand.
okay. So they're piggybacking off of the West Valley general plan in a way.
Right, yes,
Okay, so that's where they're circumventing, I guess, public input.
right.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, so they're using that environmental case and what they found in order to build more density. Okay, got it.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, feelings? Okay. We can move on to SB 9 and 10. Again, there's nothing to vote for at this point. There are actions that are happening. There are weekly Zoom meetings throughout the state that bring in 200 people weekly. Sometimes they've hit 1,000 people from throughout the state who are opposed to SB 9 and 10. There's just, it's amazing how many people are opposed to it. It is not one person on one area, it's the entire state that appears to be opposed to it. And as Jen said, 71% of the population is opposed to 9 and 75% of the state voting population is opposed to SB 10. At the moment, we have one lawsuit. I'm sure we will get many more. Number 2, it's going to end up on the ballot in November 2022. Unfortunately, these bills go into effect in January. So whatever developers want to do between now and that vote on the 22nd, they probably can do. Maybe the lawsuits can slow them down and preventing it from happening. But it's just not, neither of the bills are going to do any of us any good. And that's at all levels of the state. So I just wanted to keep you involved in this because it is something of major importance from land use in the state of California that is going to, could and will have a dramatic effect on part of the community and the value of our properties and the quality of life within our communities. These bills just are not written correctly. And they were defeated 3 times before they got passed. How they got passed, I'm really not sure. But then again, that's a different story. So I will continue to keep you updated. One of these days when I remember, I will send you the email address that you can use to go to these meetings and see what they're all about. They do have high quality people involved in these meetings. They are getting stronger and stronger with the quality of people from the legal field and several other different fields that are fighting this thing. So the idea is it's not a dead bill. It's not dead that we have to live with it. There's enough people in the state of California who are fighting this project because it's just, both of them are just so bad. So that's the update with those.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, you can have 2.
Good. So what can we as a committee do, or have we already done something about these 2 bills?
We, as a community, neighborhood council sent letters to them, as did the council office downtown, stating our opposition to it. What we can do at this point is, in fairness to you, I will send you the email address to listen to these different presentations.
I just sent you an email to remind you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I won't see that until tomorrow. But if I get you this email that you can connect with, I think you'll walk away very impressed. And the one that Linda listens to, Linda G, her group is different than my group, but they both say the same thing. And there are several different groups. One of the major concerns they have is where these fire areas are, because these 2 bills don't even address the fire area. And it's all about density. So you could have, and for the sake of discussion, you could have an area that is really dense in forest, and you could go in there and build huge apartment complexes. And if there's a fire, there's a fire, but the huge apartment complexes aren't going to get out. because you have to have the ability to move traffic, to get people out of an area so they can be safe. You also have a problem with the water line, the sewer line, and there's
Everything.
30 different things that are really of major concern that neither of these bills address, nor do the legislators who wrote the bills care. So that's why I keep leaving it on the agenda, because it really is an aggressive, scary presentations by SB 9 and 10 that could have a dramatic effect with us. I mean, stop and think about it for a minute. If we had a fire coming towards us from Chatsworth, how do we get 2 million people out of the valley safely? I don't need an
Well,
answer.
I think the 405 is pretty easy.
I'm gonna go in a private jet.
And Van Nuys would be available, and they do have those jets. But, you know, and how much warning time do you need? I mean, if the northwest corner of the valley catches on fire, how do we know when we should leave? A, and B, where should we go if we leave? And see what happens after that.
So Tom, do I understand you to say that as a committee, we've already registered our concerns? Or as a neighborhood council, we've already registered our concerns, and now you're encouraging us to participate in these, what are they, hearings or whatever, and register whatever concerns we might have as individuals? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely you want to do it as individuals. And definitely you're going to have the opportunity to vote on it, because it's going to be on the November state ballot in 2022.
Okay.
Oh, 2022,
Right, that's a whole year away.
right.
But is there any education
you
that
have
we
to-
could do?
Huh?
Not that I want to put any more work on us. But is there any education of the community that we can do in the meantime?
Yes.
Because how many of the, people who live here know about this?
If your chairman would give you enough information, you could spread it within your community. So now that I have a reminder from Karen, I'll try to get everything to everybody so that they can address.
So I know that Adrian Nazarian has voted against these,
Yes,
but apparently he was not one of a majority.
correct. The 3 people who represent us, the 2 senators and Nazarian. Nazarian said no to both. Stern said no to both. Hirschberg said yes to 9 and no to 10. So basically, the support is there. The city of Los Angeles, the city council, and every member of the city council voted against it as well.
Tom, may I add a couple comments?
Please.
Please.
Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council voted to oppose both SB 9 and SB 10. Of the people that wrote into the state, 70% said we don't want it. 30% said it was okay. So they went with the 30%. So the Assembly and the Senate of the state voted for these bills, and the governor signed it into law. It is law. What we're trying to do with the various organizations is say, hey, wait a minute. You didn't think about air quality. You didn't think about schools. You didn't think about roads. You didn't tell us what we're going to do about sewers. And hey, we have a water shortage already. What are we going to do about that? So what these organizations are doing is bringing to the forefront these issues that were not thought about. And to be very honest, you, Karen, and you, Danica, have large lot properties. Those will probably be snatched up by a developer in a heartbeat. You too, Tom. And they'll have 4 or 8 units on those properties next door to you. The idea is, okay, there's areas for apartments, there's areas for condos, and there should be areas for single family residences. And so what Tom is going to send you are giving you some ammunition so that you can talk to your neighbors, you can talk to whomever, you can send your own comments in. It is late because we've already, it's law. And I think it goes into effect the 1st of January.
Correct.
But the mayor of Redondo Beach says, oh no, I'm not going to allow this to happen in my community. And he's already started legislation that he has to get on the ballot for next year. And what he's trying to get on the ballot is to say each municipality will determine their own zoning. He's not trying to say we don't want your bill, we don't want to do that. It's just that City Council in Los Angeles will have the right to determine how the zoning is applied within the city of Los Angeles. That's all they're trying to do. That's in a nutshell. I'll go back to cleaning my house.
So what's going to be on the ballot for November 2022? Is it this Redondo Beach proposal?
Yes, the mayor's legislation is going to be something to the effect that SB 9 and SB 10 have been voted on, but we want that the local cities have control over zoning. So if you still want SB 8 and SB 9 and SB 10, that's okay. But we want the city zoning to be able to say, oh no, not over here by Karen's house. No, it's not happening.
And we can write that in about Karen's house? Let's see
Anyway,
what
that's it.
Yeah, it'll be on the California ballot, right?
Correct.
So the entire state gets to vote as to whether they want to keep or not keep the presentation of these 2 bills next November.
And well, Garcetti's on the he's termed out in the next election, yeah? Or is he still?
No, he's termed out.
He's termed out. So
Well, the only thing I can say is that we have had council members and now LA supervisor who have apparently gotten additional money from developers, or so it appears. And this to me just smacks of another way for people to bend the rules, if you will. That's my own personal
yeah,
opinion.
well, pretty clear.
We seem to have lost Tom Riley. Anyway, so it's a done deal. It is law, and I believe it takes effect the 1st of January, 2022.
And so
What we're trying to do is say, wait a minute, let's chip away at some of these things that are crazy. What about our water shortage? What about the sewers? I mean, the sewers, the pipes are bursting right and left because they're so old. And if you live within X yards of a bus or a bus route, you don't need parking.
Yeah, half a mile within the orange line, you don't need parking.
well, what about a bus on Sherman Way and a bus on Van Owen? Those are considered.
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, everybody lives a block or 2 or 3 from Sherman Way or Van Owen or Victory or Satagoy. I mean,
That is correct.
they have shitty bus service, but they have bus service. I mean, you know, so every place has, you know, every place has bus service.
Just as a reminder, this is being recorded.
Oh, sorry. They have crummy bus service, but they do have bus service.
Alan, you have your hand raised?
Yes. I got two mailings from a company that's jumping the gun. I sent them to Tom. They are trying to talk people into building grandma apartments in their backyard with no parking. It's only street parking. They have to find it on their own. And they're guaranteeing that the owner will get $43,000 a year in rent.
Up to,
Okay. Well, this is a class neighborhood, James. Of course, we're gonna get top dollar. And there's nothing we can do about the granny houses. They're there, ADU houses, they're there by right. And there's a tremendous amount of pressure on email to push those. And there are a lot of people who are trying or are doing it. So already the community is being destroyed. They've just found a new way of really destroying it.
Well, you know, unfortunately, there's there's two sides to the story. A lot of people can't afford to live, and so putting a rental on their property is a way to just make their nut. So, you have people who live in like Santa Monica and whatever, and they're older and they've lived there for a long time, and all of a sudden it's very expensive, and they put an ADU or a granny flat or whatever, and it allows them to continue to live. So it's a challenging situation. The parking is really
The issue.
just criminal. Yeah, the parking is the issue. I mean, to me, if somebody on my neighborhood builds an ADU and puts parking with it, well, whatever, but changing to 4-plexes, 8-plexes, this, that, and the other thing without sufficient parking, I mean, is
Yeah, that's,
terrible. I mean,
Well, the other thing you have to think about, Karen, and because this happened here on Andersol. A property went in and put up a 2-story ADU. That 2-story is overlooking the property next to it,
yeah,
my property and the other property. 3 of us, well, actually more like 8 of us or 9 of us have lost our privacy because it's a 2-story living
right.
for everybody. So it's not, parking is a major concern, but it's not the only concern.
No, listen, I lived next door to a 2-story house that was somehow got a variance before I bought my house. So, I bought it knowing it was there. I also had oleanders which blocked the view that I put in until the oleander disease came, and then I lost my blocking of my neighbor and I haven't replanted. But the 2-story thing is a bummer, but I don't know how you really fight against that, as much as the parking, which I think is an easier issue to fight over, although the city obviously doesn't give 2 hoots. Was that okay, Linda? Give 2 hoots?
Yes, I was impressed.
Steve Lefford has his hand up.
Hey, Steve.
hey, Steve, we can't understand you. No. No, you're all muffled jumbled.
Steve, type it in the chat.
Yeah, type it in the chat, Steve. And then Alan, you had your hand up previously.
I already spoke about what I needed.
then I'll go on and reiterate what Gravani said from about each community dictating their own rules specific to that community. Only they know the traffic patterns, only they know specific situations that benefit people living in those communities. But for the time being, as Gravani said, we do have a law on the books. And so the only thing that we can do right now is to write letters to amend, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to amend SB 9 and 10, and that will have already been on the books for a year. So we need to plan about what we're going to do now and begin that task, because it's going to be a long one and it's going to be ongoing.
Steve wrote in the chat that 2-story is allowed on R1 lots, so you can't do anything about that.
True.
What did he say?
He said on R1 lots, you're allowed to build a 2-story home.
Sadly, he's correct.
Mhm.
But I'm just telling you what a 2-story ADU does to your property. Not to
It's a
get
bummer.
the 43,000.
So are we moving on, Tom?
Huh?
Mm-mm.
Are we moving on?
Oh, you're right. I'm just about out of scotch. Number 7, is there any other questions, thoughts, feelings, ideas about this? And my responsibility is to get you the information so you can follow it much closer and bring it up with your neighbors. Okay,
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better, Steve.
Okay.
did you want to say something, Steve?
Well, same thing. There are certain things you can't control or couldn't anyhow, and the 2-story is one of the things.
Right.
Because by rights you could build 2-story. I don't know. I think it might even be like a 30-foot tall building on an R1 lot without any special variances. The other thing is, the argument, the water usage. Well, if you've dug up your backyard, you're not watering your backyard, you're watering toilets and sinks instead. And the parking, they already did away with the parking requirement for houses anyhow, right? That was the last go around. You don't need a covered parking anymore. You just needed a parking space on your lot. So yeah, they're just building all over, yet they say California is losing population.
They're so not true. You talk to any developer, clearly they don't, they're not of that opinion that California is losing population.
Well, we just have 30,000 people on the streets, so
Yeah.
those people need houses that they can't afford.
That they can't afford, right? And never will.
Right. Right. And that's half the presentation is we have all these homeless people that need to have a house to move into so they can pay rent. Right.
Well, the one thing about my neighborhood is on my street, we all who live on this street need roofs over our heads. So none of us are willing to sell our property to a developer for whatever, because, we'll be homeless then.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where you're going from Lake Balboa to downsize.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we can move on to redistricting. Again, we don't have much say in any of that. The background in the city, which I'm sure is the same in the county, which is the same in the state, as well as the federal government. In the city of Los Angeles, the city council appointed a redistricting commission. The redistricting commission went crazy. We had council offices that no longer existed in the council area they were responsible for. We had a vast majority of councils where the council, where the people who were elected for the council were not elected by the people that they're going to be responsible for. So the city council said, wait a minute, we commissioned, for lack of a better word, we commissioned the commission to draw up the redistricting program based on the census. They went crazy. The council as a whole was not interested in giving up most of their properties or zone areas. And so over the last week or two, the city council has called a number of meetings, and they have met with each other and have drawn up a plan. So there's a draft that's out there, which, thank goodness, basically resembles what was out there before, with some exceptions. And the most important thing is, it would appear that Lake Balboa remains in District 6 with Neary, where there's at least a relationship with Neary and vice versa. And we get to Vienna to harass. So I think we came out of it in good stance. There was no reason for us to leave. The exciting thing is, it appears that Lake Balboa Park now belongs exclusively to Lake Balboa. Encino appears to have been moved off. So now we have the biggest airport in the valley, and we have the biggest park in the valley. If nothing else, we seem to have come out of this in a great position. Well, great, maybe too much, in a very good position. But I just pass that on to you so that you know they have not voted. The council has not voted. The city council has to vote pretty soon. Becomes January 1st. Those who want to run for election for the November 22nd voting date can apply for the opportunity to represent a given community. And so the redistricting process has to be completed before that, so that everybody knows where they are going to go, or who they can vote for, or who their constituents are. So the redistricting of LA City Council will be fairly soon. I would say next week or two. Minneanna, if I'm wrong, jump in. But whenever it is, it's going to be quick, and it's going to be before the first of the year. So that's where we are with it at this point.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So on that item 7 on the agenda, the second to the last sentence reads, all the Lake Balboa schools are now in District 3. Is that Council District 3, or is that the school districts 3? Because you've got Scott Schermelson.
He means School District 3.
It's School District 3, okay.
And that takes care of my next presentation. I had a 2-hour presentation on that when you just took the whole thing away.
Previously, we had school district 6 and 3. 6 had 3 schools, and the rest were in the District 3. So now we have just one board member, Scott Schmelson.
Which makes life a lot easier dealing with one person rather than 2 different people.
Steve Leffert has a question.
Well, yeah, it's just that particular issue. I know where I live, it was in District 6, not with 3, which Merrillson. And so I think we're good. I mean, putting it all the schools in Lake Balboa into one school district. So I think that's an improvement.
Yes. You have all the grammar schools are feeder schools to the junior highs, and the junior highs are feeder schools to the high school. And it's good to have the same representation for all the schools. So I think that's a great move for us and for our families and for our families' children. Any more lines like that, I'll run to politics. Is there any other questions on this or any other thoughts or feelings? Okay, I think the school district is the redistricting of the school is a great asset to us. It's something we deal with one person instead of two people who have going in two different directions. Okay, now the exciting thing, potential voting members for the land use committee. Let me call out the names and say yes or no, and then we'll go from there. I should point out the way this voting works is the easy part, but everybody will be required to take 2 one-hour courses with the city on what land use is all about. Quite frankly, both of them are pretty interesting. If you like land use. But I want you to understand, not only do you have to listen to me for another year or two, you also have to take the courses that the city requires. So I'll give you 12 seconds to think about that.
And it basically talks about city planning, what different terminology means, the process of what somebody has to go through in order to get city planning's approval and permits and all of that stuff, which is really quite interesting. But who knows if SB 9 and 10 are intact, there might not be any city planning.
Exactly. It's with 9 and 10 as an example, it's an ongoing changing way of doing business and responsibility of the local community. But in the meantime, it'll be there for a while. It may take a year or two to settle it down, but we are here to make recommendations to Nuri's office. And I think it's important, regardless of what the SB 9 and 10 is, that we recommend to that council office what the community of Lake Balboa wants. I think that's extremely important, and it allows us to take the message back to the community. So, any questions, thoughts, feelings? All right, Danica, do you want to be a member?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, did I see a hand?
Jim Stein.
Are these classes, these 1-hour classes, are they on Zoom type things or what?
There's Zoom, yes.
All right, thank you.
Karen, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Wait your turn, lady.
Fine. Keep it moving.
Miguel,
Yes, sir.
Jim, do you want me to put you down at the end so you can think about it?
Are you asking me now? Then I'll say yes.
Okay. Gwen,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Tom? I'll get back to you. Yes. Mary
Yes.
and James.
No at this time.
Okay. Do we have another meeting in an hour?
You left me out.
Oh, Alan, you said you didn't want to.
Yes,
Okay, no problem.
Karen, you still have a question?
To answer your question, Steve, I'm sorry, I butted in, I'm sorry. The people that were listed on the agenda were people that were interested in becoming a committee member. And that's why it says really potential voting members.
It said it doesn't say potential, it says potential, and I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out what that really meant.
Yeah,
I was a student, not a teacher. I never learned to spell. Okay. Any public comments? Thank you all for your interest and for wanting to be part of this. Any public comments on anything?
Hey, Tom, how do we find out about these classes we have to take?
Vanessa, I'll send you some information tomorrow.
Okay,
From her.
Karen has her hand raised.
No, it's being unraised.
I will send you the email I got from her today, which has all the information. And I explained to her then, last week, that I wanted to verify who was interested and who wasn't. And now I have a list and I will send that list to her.
okay,
So
You actually have to go on to the city's training, which is called Cornerstone, and you have to have a passcode and a sign in. So the stakeholders need to get that from Vanessa. So you'll need to facilitate that, Tom.
that's all in the email.
Perfect.
I'll do it all. So I'll send it to everybody. And if there's any questions, get back to me and we'll go from there.
Jim has his hand up.
Yes, I do. I'm not getting any emails you sent to my old neighborhood council email address. I don't get those anymore. I don't have that email. So like even tonight's invitation, I did not get it. So anything you send to me, I'd appreciate if you send to my personal email address, and you know what it is, Tom.
Yeah, I thought that's where I was sending it. Okay. I will change that.
And that would go for this this class that you want me to take as well.
I understand the problem. I never use Lake Balboa either. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas? Well, then I think the meeting is done. Thank you for coming. And it's been great.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.